Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries of channel and partnerships on a weekly basis. My name is Efe, and I'm really excited to introduce our special guest, Miguel. Miguel, how are you doing?
Doing very good, Efe. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited for this conversation. Also really grateful today. It's a sunny day in November in Amsterdam, which is rare to find. So I'm double excited.
Nice. Enjoy the day. Hopefully you get to do something fun at the end of the working day.
I hope so as well. For the uninitiated, Miguel, maybe you could give us a bit of an introduction, share where you come from and who you are.
Sure. So Miguel Carrero, as a working title, I'm the Vice President of Partner Ecosystem Growth globally for WatchGuard. I'm sure that both my name and my accent gives me away. So I'm a Spaniard, right? Born and raised in Spain, although I spent 16 years of my life in the Silicon Valley. I went there looking for what I thought it was a couple of years of the U.S. experience, and took 16 years and came back with dual citizenship and 2 kids that we didn't have when we went there. As a more of a professional introduction, you and I discussed, first of all, my very first job was serious job. I did many things when I was young just to make some pocket money, but my first serious job was in a VAR, a value add reseller. At the time was actually a glamorous term. We were moving from reselling to VARs. Nowadays it has changed, right? Of Hewlett Packard at the time. Then I actually joined a large company. I did join HP. And I think as an introduction, I worked many years in sales roles in what a big multinational would call the field, so in a country. And then I moved to Palo Alto to the headquarters in 2005. So I have that experience between working close to the reality and the field, but also being in headquarters of a large corporation. So that's one of the elements that I'll highlight on my background. The other thing is that I not only did large company. After many years in the Bay Area, you realize that, hey, people don't come here to do large company. They come here to do startups. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. So I did a startup. And I moved from the 300,000 people employee HP to a 27 people startup by the name of Simplify, which was a fantastic ride, not for the faint of spirit, right? But a fantastic ride with a fantastic exit. So Google Cloud acquired us in beginning of 2022. Great headlines, great experience, but life in the trenches was different. So having done large company, small company, and also mid-sized company, similar to WatchGuard, right? More private equity owned company in a growth trajectory. Right? That's kind of the elements. Big company, small company, mid-sized company, working at the field, working at headquarters, and always around working with partners. They may manifest themselves very differently. Different type of channels of partners, more smaller, bigger, big GSIs, smaller ones. So always have been working around how you leverage, right? What you can do with a bigger ecosystem that works with you.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the most fascinating things about your career is that you had the privilege of working at a smaller company, successful startups, more mid-sized companies, WatchGuard, private equity, also large public enterprises as well. I'm curious to hear what's mindset or what's one rule that you have for yourself when you are building partnerships. Doesn't matter the company size, industry, or stage of growth. What has been a key rule that you've been following since your first job at a VAR?
Yeah, I love the question. Unfortunately, sometimes the answer come across as cheesy, but it is not. It's genuine, right? And for me, that element is when you are partnering, you must care for the other party. It's not an opportunistic, even if it's opportunistic for both and is productive for both parties. If you are really not transacting with companies, you're really partnering, you have to care. You have to care, and to care, you need to understand the other party. Understand what are they doing, what is critical for them, what is not. You may have a point of view and may try to influence, but you need to come with a very respectful element that normally people and businesses, they know what they're doing. They know their limitation, their ambitions, and that curiosity to understand the other party. Understanding that when you understand, you can find the common ground. What I see sometimes is that it's not a genuine interest to understand the other party. It's more to understand how I can use the other party. That, in my humble opinion, is not partnership. It's a business relationship. There's nothing unethical about it, right? There is nothing illegal about it, but it's different. I look for that spirit on the people to understand, on the conviction that by understanding, we can find how we help each other. And by helping each other, we can actually also maximize our own business objectives that we have. I'm not naive. We are not in a non-profit. We are in a for-profit company. But when you really believe in that, then many things happen naturally.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like we've been doing this podcast for over 200 episodes now, so I got to speak with so many amazing channel leaders, partnership leaders, and one thing I always notice is in this space, people are high EQ, people care, people have high empathy. I feel like I've been so privileged to speak with such amazing, inspirational leaders, also yourself as well. But this is so true. I think in this space, it's a must-have skill. That soft skill, the personal skill, the ability to empathize is such a must. And I'm also curious to hear, is this something when you're hiring for your team? I'm sure that this is something that you qualify for when you're hiring partner managers, channel account managers. How do you qualify that in a person? Like what's something that you would ask, or is this one of the priorities for you?
That's good. First, you just ask about partnership, how do they believe a partnership is established, how it's grown, experiences. But then other thing that is very telling to me, I tend to ask, give me an example. Doesn't need to be the biggest one or the biggest partner, the biggest transaction, or something that you are proud of in your evolution. And there sometimes it says, when I'm being proud is I'm proud that I helped this company doing that. And it's not only that I brought my top line to this and I did all those things, like you start getting symptoms, right? Of, okay, the person really cares, right? Really tries to understand. The other question that I many times do is like, just tell me a learning experience, something that didn't work well, for whichever the reason, right? What was your learning? And again, in the way people express, you can see, is there a genuine, true, foundational belief that this understanding and this finding the common ground is what will maximize the benefit for both parties? This is not fully altruistic. I'll be very clear, right? Then it's clear. Now, the other aspect that is a little bit less about partnership, although it is more about soft skills. I like people that they really care about what they do and they put the passion and they have the energy. Just in many companies, the larger the company, the bigger it is. But part of the job is really crystallizing the value of your company to the partner. And that requires tenacity. Sometimes you need to go convince people. Not everybody may have this deep partnership approach that we try to have in our team. And that energy, that tenacity, that conviction to do the job internally and externally is something that I also care. I always say that you can channel energy, right? It's very hard to tune up if somebody doesn't have that passion to drive the business. That is harder to attain, right?
I think also one of the reasons why empathy is important is because for a successful partnership, you really need to understand the partner's business. You really need to understand it deeply. And we've talked about it in our previous conversation. You said the importance of meeting partners where they are. This is such a recurring topic also in this podcast. We talk about it all the time, like how important it is to meet the partner where they are instead of forcing your own goals, own expectations on them. Because I remember what you shared, especially in the MSP space, there are a lot of businesses, maybe like 3 to 5 people, lifestyle businesses. They don't want to grow 200% per quarter, right? They don't want to have that level of growth. So I think it's really important that when you're building these programs, partnerships, that you understand the partner and you make sure that you are working in a way that they want to work with you. And I'm curious to hear, what does that look like for you in practice in WatchGuard? How are you making sure that you're meeting the partner where they are?
Now, this is a great thing. I'm very, very close to not only to my heart, but to WatchGuard, pure business culture. The challenge for us in this industry is that everybody uses the right term, right? I'm people that we speaking it up, we can use that. For me, is the validation point, right? So I love when people say, hey, we really want to meet them where they are, but then when you ask them, how do you look at your partners? And they give you a classification. It's all about what they care. These categories, whatever they are, right? Silver, bronze, gold, whatever, based on how much revenue they do, based on how many of those things they do. Like, okay, that is important. I am not saying that you don't need to have that. And we actually have a view of looking that way. But do you have a different angle as well? So we have to put the time and the effort and the intellectual curiosity to also classify partners on what they are as a business. And you touch which are the business model, which are the business objective, in which part of the life cycle of the company they are. Are they a reseller? Still exist, still they have a value and they still add value in the market. Are they a reseller? Okay. Maybe it's a small or a big reseller, but it says reseller. It's more of a VAR. I'm adding value at service on top of where I'm reselling, right? Am I an MSP? Nowadays, everybody's an MSP. Since that reselling and VARs have, in reality, some are and some are not. And there is a big journey from the beginning of an MSP to a more fully, and if you wish, in the case of cybersecurity, MSSP, this managed security service provider. So when we put the effort to understand by different parameters, what I said, business model, what they sell, how do they sell it, in which part they are, companies that really want to grow, and there is some of those small companies that are actually looking for capital to acquire or grow. Some other tell you, no, right? When we understand them, for us, that was the foundation. And now that we look at them from a different present, from a different angle, from an angle of what they care, now we can think, okay, which is our value contribution to that part? And I tend to bring an example just because it's very telling in my mind. You have a reseller or a VAR, and maybe they do business at volume. You can have different elements to incentivize what they want to attain. And you can have a program, and you can have rebates, and I'll give you a better price when you do this and that. Great. You have a true MSSP. Actually, that company, what it needs the most is predictability in the cost of goods sold. You're selling them technology. What they need is predictability. They're building a service in which your technology is embedded. Maybe it's not even visible from a pricing perspective to the end customer. And they need to understand that they have the right cost structure so I can price my service correctly and predictable. And you give me that price at the beginning. When I'm doing all my investment on people, on process, and setting up this true managed service provider, I'm doing that. Don't tell me that you give me the price that I need when I reach volume of business. That's easy. Of course, when I'm selling all this, you give me a good price, but that's not what I need. I need more a good price at the beginning and predictability. So you could see that by trying to understand the business model of the partner, you can have a better view of what is your value proposition to them, and how do you maximize what matters to them. Once again, in the conviction that by doing that, you're gonna get also what matters to you, right? Which is the business. I'm seeing very little of those programs out there. I'm not saying that we have the exclusivity of doing something like that. I'm not that arrogant. I see there's more, but in many cases, what I see is the proverbial, and you get this amount of $1 million, and then you get this extra discount, and all those things. Like, so you're not meeting the partner where they are, because you may have a small partner that don't have the volume yet, or don't ever intend to have the volume. But profitability is critical to them. Is one of our core leitmotif as a company. Is all the value proposition that we do with our security is effective, is enterprise security for all type of businesses, is operational excellence. But one is when we talk about partners is they need to make money. They need to make money. If you're convinced that by they making money, you will make more money, then you put the money where your mouth is, right? And that is the kind of thing that meaning. So I will always ask, don't get just the pitch, right? We can always check their programs. How are they doing, right? How are they doing? How is this company really putting the fundamental framework to be able to meet a partner where they are, and not only push them to what the vendor may want them to be.
Yeah. I always say there are three things that a partner cares about when choosing to work with a vendor. The first bit is always the profitability, more specifically, how much margin I can make, or what kind of services revenue I can wrap around your solution. The second piece is how easy you are to sell, how much demand there is in the market. And finally, also a really important piece is how trustable are you? Do I trust that you're not going to screw me over a year from now that you're going to completely change your program, gonna cut my margins. Maybe you'll have problems with deal registration and things like that. But that's what I've seen, that those three things are the key for a partner when deciding for partners to decide which vendors to work with. Would you say that that's a good overview?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. Now, a lot of comment on the trust part, right? Because one is the typical thing: are you 100% channel company or not? Different business decisions, different direction. Clarity for me is critical. If you're clear who you are, you're already building trust more than trying to be who you are not. But if you say the other is that, okay, I'm clear on that aspect, but the other is, am I really going to support that partner in front of another bigger partner? Am I actually having core principles of meeting those partners what they are, so I can build the trust, not because the probably example, I went there and the vendor went direct and they took the bill. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen sometimes, but it shouldn't happen often. But an extreme favoritism to the bigger partner, the one that has a bigger check to you. I think that is, we can see more. So how do you find the right balance that you are providing an even playing field to different type of partners with different business objectives, and that you're doing your foremost effort to ensure right profitability for the different types of partners, right? That is where I think that you build the trust. The other aspect of trust, thanks God, people. And where I mean people is not only, we say in WatchGuard we have this real security for the real world. And one of the elements that we say is people that show up. What does that mean? Is people that show up is not only the channel partner manager, right? That you expect them to be, is the company. And then, like in many things in life, you build that trust when things are not going well. And along the business, there will be moment of miscommunications, mistakes, technology hiccups. We're not going to say that we're super proud of our technology, but I will not say that has never happened. When you show up, it's like a friend. A friend is great to go and have drinks and have fun, of course. But you sometimes say, this is my true friend. When the things got rough, it was here by me. Sometimes because he has the solution, sometimes just because he's here by me, even working together through the problems, right? So I think that that's how you build trust, is on the programs, how you do certain things, and the people that you have, and that people throughout the company. That's why work in many companies in different ways is very hard to be leading partners if the company doesn't have a partner DNA. It's tough. I'm not saying that many people do it and do a fantastic job, but that's a tough job. Because whenever there is something to find concessions, to find, there could be an inertia. No, my interest. If you don't see this partner culture throughout the company, then there is capabilities of the company to be put into the partnership. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it
So
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, that's for me, that trust, it'll show. And then when you lose the trust, super hard to gain it back. It's
Yeah,
a
I fully agree.
very thin layer of ice.
I feel like that also partner DNA, channel first culture also really comes from an executive level as well. I think it's built there and then has to be, cascaded through the team. We've seen it happening a lot, maybe like these hybrid companies have hybrid go to market. A new C-suite comes that doesn't believe so much in the channel, like a new CRO comes, and then the whole channel is deprioritized, and then the channel leaders leaves. Like we heard this story so many times. So that's also really important, that it's a priority at a board level, that we are a partner first company, we're going after partners. I want to talk about something that you mentioned earlier about metal tiers in partnering, bronze, silver, gold. This is how partners have been segmented for decades in the channel. But for the first time in the last couple of years, we are seeing that this era is kind of coming to an end. Now vendors are starting to realize, as you said, that this is maybe not the best way how we segment our partners. This doesn't make so much sense. And you shared earlier that in WatchGuard also you segment your partners in a different way. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that looks like in practice?
So yes, okay, we do also have, and I brought it intentionally, the silver, gold, platinum partners. We have it. For me, what is more critical is what is the parameter that you use to get to that determination, right?
Mhm.
That's one. And then the other is combining with a different classification that we didn't even find very nice market terms. We call them resellers as MSP1, MSP2, MSP3, because
Mhm.
there's a whole bunch of parameters behind, right? But one of the aspects that you said it for WatchGuard is it's a large ecosystem of partners and getting bigger, not only on the number of partners, but the typologies of partners. So we can, from a fundamental principle, say, when we care about each other, and we care about the partner, and we want the partner to care about WatchGuard,
Mhm.
you try to understand each other. We just say it, right? And also you devote the time to that understanding. So one of the aspects that we saw is when is the business in those companies that train on our technology are showing that they care about us, right?
Mhm.
And then training, you may have a certification that give you, but it's certification is the way to check. But what we really want is people that put the time, the effort, the energy, the investment to know our products, our direction, our platform, our evolution, in the absolute belief, and the data supports that those partners that are well trained will generate better and bigger business with us. So we say, okay, why don't we use that as a parameter? Let's look at all the people that are doing the training, the certification on the commercial side, on the technical side, on the different, we have different product lines engaged in a single unified security platform. Those companies, they're doing what we want them to do. And if it's a company of 3,000 people, we'll have a different number of people certified. There is a company of five.
Mhm.
But if the company of five is putting the effort, the slice of their time and investment to train, we said, you're a good partner to us. We want to meet you where you are. We want to understand which is the model and how you give you profitability, right? And that's what we're using. It's okay. It's still may have metals names, right? But it's
Mhm.
the parameter that we use. Okay, I am not saying that volume of business is never taken into consideration. What for me is a little bit hypocritical is what I say is the only thing. I got all these things. I got all the that generate this amount of business, this other. Like, well, this is what outcome that you ultimately may care for, but that cannot be the single parameter that you use to get your partner program, right? And then what I said, internally we have this other classification just to show like how do we add value
Mhm.
to that typology of partner, and which also the different monetization earning capacities for that partner depending on what they are. Right? So being able to adapt the program to that typology is critical for us. And by the way, we intentionally don't want it to be here's the program, we'll look at it in 5 years. This is something that we're constantly looking at. I'm not saying that we're changing it constantly because it will get everybody crazy, but you need to keep on looking at it. Is this hitting the mark? Is talking to those partners, are we doing the right thing? Are you getting the value you were expecting? Not how we can keep on improving, right? So the program needs to be a leading animal that keeps on evolving.
Mhm. I think that constant feedback loop is so important. You also shared in our previous conversation, you share about like half of your time spending with time with partners, trying to understand what's going well, what's not going well. You so basically change your tiering not just on revenue, but the amount of certifications that partners gain. It kind of actually
Yes.
reminds me of another conversation we had on the podcast a long time ago where one of our guests shared that they also looked at the data and they realized that the partners who had more certification had also a better customer retention. The partners who had less, they were suffering with churn. So there's also something that they realize, okay, there's a problem here. We need to help our partners train and upskill to make sure that we are not having a churn problem. You made that shift in your partner program, so now WatchGuard partners are basically have different level of support based on the certifications they have, if I'm correct. I'm curious to hear how did partners react to this because a lot of vendors do not have the segmentation. What's the feedback that you've gotten from partners about how you segment them, how you support them?
So the good thing is we have been doing this already for a number of years. So that is good. It was natural. They they do see they fundamentally understand. Now, okay, so you're just trying to see what you can squeeze out of us. You're trying to enable us. The other thing that we have done more recently is also based on the typology of partner, have different groups of people devoted to serving them or to working with them. And the notion is that it is very different if you are this, say for the example, that MSSP that is advanced. How does your partner manager add value to you needs to understand your typology and what the company has for you. If you're more of a very small reselling a different part of the world, you want a different. So we also changed our internal organization and structure to have people that say, okay, we believe that you will train yourself as well to understand this type of partner, to understand what the company can deliver for this type of partners, and then grouping them that way, right? So even the structuring of our organization, how we put both the people that deal with the partners on the day and the people that recruit partners. So my team that we're looking for not only more number of the same types of partners that we have, that we do, but also different type of partners. What is happening with the hyperscalers? What is happening with these cloud marketplaces that are coming? What is happening with these new entities that are part of the ecosystem and that sometimes are very synergetic with each other? If you look at it, how we can potentially connect, a small reseller that is better served buying from, let's say, a digital marketplace. Maybe the credit scoring is not so severe. Maybe there is a different way of transacting. So how we look at all those different angles and how we structure our team align with some of those dimensions. You cannot slice and dice too much. It's how we actually are showing our commitment to those partners to meet them where they are and do the best we can for them.
And you're responsible for the whole partner ecosystem. So the challenging task, you said hyperscalers, MSPs, VARs, different kind of marketplaces, what's happening with them. What's one principle that you follow to keep the partner experience as friction-free as possible at WatchGuard?
So there is two key elements. From a programmatic side, the word is simplicity. And simplicity, because in my mind, in many ways, simplicity aligns in a very, or correlates in a very strong way with effectiveness. Sometimes I think that vendors we tend to do is we think about this program, it has all those many angles and themes and variations. But maybe the partner, even if he's really interested in knowing about us and devoting some time to understand, doesn't have that level of deep understanding. So if it's too sophisticated, that hinders effectiveness, you're giving nothing, right? So one is how we keep a program that makes things accessible to the partners. It may be marketing assets, it may be product information, technical support, pricing, deal research, whatever it is, that as easy as possible, but simple. Simple that people will not know our partner program website the way that our people does. That's one aspect. The second gets back to the people that shows up. And that's part of the frictionless is having the right people with the right profile, the right curiosity to understand what those partners are looking for, right? To alleviate some of the potential friction that may happen and people that show up. And as I said before, they show up in the good times and we'll go and celebrate. We do it often and we like it. We'll show up if we're having a hiccup in whichever part of the process, right? Simplicity in the program, people that truly care. I think that combination tends to get frictionless, or when there's a bit of friction, we very clearly and quickly smooth it out.
I feel like that importance of ease of doing business frictionless is double important when you're talking about the long tail, the SMB partners. I feel like their friction kills deals, like kills partnerships so fast because especially like when it comes to pricing or messaging, if things get complicated, these partners don't have the resources or the patience to really deal with that. And also most of the times that I see this part of the channel being deprioritized. You talked about like the importance of thickening that long tail, like kind of helping those partners tier up. how do you approach, like, first of all, maybe two-part question, like, why do you feel like that's an important strategy for your channel? Why do you see the value in investing in resources in that part of the channel? And second is, then how the approach of like, okay, where do I draw the line? How do I divide my resources between supporting that long tail compared to your top tier partners?
Yeah. I mean, the long tail for us is very critical. You see, in WatchGuard, we talk enterprise security for all type of businesses. Great. How do you reach those all type of businesses? How do you reach not only the mid company or the enterprise company that is no, but the smaller company that is there? I think that you need a capillarity, a commercial capillarity, and commercial proximity that for us is given through our ecosystem of partners. And many of these may be small because they are serving a mid-size or small company in one part of the planet, whatever it is. So if you believe that that is the way to deliver enterprise security to all type of businesses, you need to take care of that long tail. And the long tail, from a very selfish money numbers perspective, has a huge compound effect. So each one of them individually may be neglectable, but all together is a significant part of the business. So now the thing for us from that long tail is fundamentally around having the right program and having it through a two-tier distribution model. So let's try to get proximity to that end customer through that partner that is close to them, through potentially that distributor, old fashion or new fashion, different things that is close to them. So it's all about getting proximity. Proximity to the end customer, then proximity to the partner that serves the customer, then proximity to that second tier that gets service to that partner. So that is a lot about partner program simplicity. How do I make it accessible to them that they ideally don't need to call anybody, but if they call, we'll have the people that show up. Right? So that is an element that we says. The other thing that is a very anchoring principle about that aspect of simplicity. Simplicity becomes even more evident on that long tail. When that is critical of your thinking mode, right, you tend to gravitate towards simple. Now, I said different partners, not only in the long tail, the amount of business, but what they do, different type of value they're expecting for us. So we'll have certain the program, the long tail, how we manage, and then we may have things more ad hoc for a different type of partners, right? But it's in that combination. I have the fortune, because it's a fortune that I oversee both elements, the more volume space in terms of recruitment of those partners and the more sophistication, new types of partners in the channel ecosystem that we do. So for me, it's intellectually super interesting, but sometimes I need to put myself in a particular frame of mind. Now we're talking about the long tail, the volume, what do we do for them? Maybe 3 hours later, we're talking about a very specific type of partner, which is a different type, but that we need to think more ad hoc for that. So for me, the intellectual challenge is sometimes changing the context. Understand when you're talking to one type of partner, understand when you're not only talking, thinking about what to do for a type of partner, and when you are talking or thinking about what to do for a different type of partner.
I think it's completely different how we approach enabling those top partners compared to the long tail. For me, long tail, the keyword is always at scale, because the unit economics don't work if you're going to put headcount on people, put partner managers. It just doesn't work out, because as you said, a single partner doesn't add up that much, but they all together compound to a significant amount. So we always look at, okay, how can we enable partners at scale? How can I make programs that are automated and easy for these partners? And also at the same time, I think understanding that, meeting partners where they are, understanding that these partners don't have a lot of internal resources themselves as well. So when building, programs, tools, it has to be as easy to use as possible.
Absolutely. And you mentioned sometimes there is, in my mind, not a contradiction, but a balancing act, right? You think what I like about the long tail, you try to put that program that is simple, that is accessible, people that will show up. When you say, but what is the drawback? What is the problem? Is that, yeah, I would like to have an individual treatment to each one of them, but it's not possible. It's not financially feasible. It's not. So sometimes it's not a contradiction. It's a balancing act. It's okay. How do you show that you got programs, but you have programs based on a segmentation of partners that is with the right granularity. You cannot say granular to the individual, no, but it's not one program fits all. No, it's different elements, right? So that's and that's what it is a living animal. You're always adding. I think they say, "Oh, I got it. I got it. Keep on looking, look more, because more likely there is still room for improvement." Also, we like to challenge ourselves. Like we're happy and proud of what we have, but we're never content. We don't claim victory. It's always work in progress in a very positive sense.
Mm-hmm. I want to come to a topic where, as Gen X, we like to believe that we are experts. That is marketing, especially within that long tail of partners. How do you support them to do marketing? Because I think historically, also coming back to meet the partner when they are, I feel like something that the channel has tried and didn't work out so well was the campaigns in a box and partner portal approach. I feel like we've thought that we would create these campaigns and then the partners would come, they would log in and they would use those campaigns. And then in reality, we saw that a lot of partners didn't have the time, didn't have the urgency to do that. I'm curious to hear, how do you see, first of all, marketing play a role in to partner marketing, but also through partner marketing to help them, enable them to generate demand for WatchGuard? And what does that, what is the importance of marketing for you in that long tail? I'm curious to hear.
Marketing is critical for me for the long term, but not only for the long term, for everything we do, right? It's a company, and in this case, we have the pleasure and the luxury of having a world class marketing organizations with different functions and with that partner philosophy DNA that is true. Now we look at it different, and you mentioned already, but very important. We look at how we do marketing to the partners. How do we do marketing with the partner? Because one of the key elements that I think WatchGuard has for those partners is a whole bunch of marketing assets, capabilities, and willingness to work with them. Now, that marketing may manifest itself a bit different. You may have more of a massive air coverage for the long tail. You may move more to this account-based marketing. You could say segment-based marketing or individual account-based marketing. Now, you need to want to have a marketing organization that is powerful and flexible enough to understand those concepts. When am I doing things that are air coverage for a particular type of when I need to do a marketing that is more dedicated to either one account or a segment of accounts. Right? That's what we have in WatchGuard. And then thinking about all the marketing shortages that our partners may have, how we can help them with that. Because we sometimes have the critical mass that some of those long tail may not have, or not only long tail, maybe mid tail, or maybe actually very close to the dog, right? Maybe it's not in the tail anymore; it's in the body, but they may have some critical mass shortages that they don't have. They cannot afford something, but we may not have it. So okay, we have the critical mass to do X. Can we put X at the disposal of our partners, right? I'm thinking that marketing to marketing with is constant with us now. That's how I look at it. It's super critical in my mind. Unless you have something super niche, specialized, and with a market differentiator that will last a couple of years, marketing is a key function, because at the end is how we get out there, how we get to the market, how we reach the end customer as well.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Before I let you go, Miguel, I have one last question we ask every guest, and that is, who do you think we should have next? This is how we continue the podcast. We ask for recommendation. It makes my life easy. Who do you think we should talk next?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'll give you a name. I'll promise I'll give you a name. Maybe not right now, but I'm going to give you an angle that I think I would suggest you consider, is that the partner ecosystem has different pieces, right? We have the vendor, we have different type of partners, we have distributors. We mentioned them, but if there is a figure that I believe is under strong transformation, is distribution. Distribution may be more the old-fashioned broad line of distribution. There is a value for that, and there is a place for that. There is also an evolution to value-add distributors, they call it. There is also these new cloud marketplaces. They don't like sometimes to call themselves distributors, so that there is an angle of that. I would suggest one of those value-add distribution elements. we also see a consolidation in the market, some rollovers of different mid-size distributors being together to gain the critical mass to provide value-add services to those partners, right? I think that would be a fascinating type of partner, so to say, to bring to the conversation and see how they're looking at it and how they keep on adding value to this ecosystem that we play with.
We've had so many guests from distribution. I think it's always very interesting because distribution has been like their business model has been like under threat many times, and people were like, "Oh, are they going to survive it?" But distribution always finds a way to evolve themselves and stay relevant in the channel. I always find really fascinating talking with distribution leaders. Also, a lot of guests that we had on a podcast also had roles previously in distribution, and they will share that how much that role has helped them in their career in understanding channel from both sides. So we'll definitely try to get more distribution leaders. Thanks to your suggestion.
I'm gonna give you a couple of names right later, but I think there's a couple of people that you and the audience will enjoy the conversation and their perspectives.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Well, thank you so much, Miguel, for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening. And see you in the next episode.
Absolutely, thank you to all.